Hi everyone, I am going to be doing this calendar page today, and I thought I would use my Castle Art Botanical set. Only being 24 pencils, it makes it a little easier for me to make colour choices, and as we've got this sort of garden scene, I thought it would just make sense. Now I'm going to start by doing a few of the elements, and then I may make a second video or leave it there. I'll have a think about what I think is going to work for this particular one, because we've got a lot of little details, which is quite fun. Just opening up my tin. Now we have, as you can see, quite a selection of colours. So we've got the sort of greens and browns, but we've also got some nice pinks and purples and things, so it should work out well for us. Now I am going to start with the tree, because I'm quite aware that I probably haven't done tree branches and things with you before. You can see the picture a lot clearer now as we zoom in. I'm going to zoom in quite far, probably that will do, and show you how I do trees. Now I usually start with the branches, and with my lightest brown. I'm just having a look at what we have got here. Our darkest brown here is the burnt umber. I'm going to use that for shadowing and the later details. Then we have, I think this is probably the next one I have in this set, the raw umber. So I'm going to use that one second. And the one I'm going to use first, I've actually got two other options. I'm going to use this yellow ochre. It's quite a browny yellow. It needs a good sharpen. And I am going to use that first. Now I will zoom out a little bit, because I'm going to do all the branches at the same time. Well, not at the same time, I'd need an awful lot of hands to do that. But let's show you, because there's this little bit down here and then all this up here. So I'm just going to hope that it's all in shot. My top bit of branch is there, almost. So I'm going to do the whole, and I just do a light sketch over the whole thing with this lightest colour. As I said, this is the yellow ochre. Now there's nothing technical about this at all. Just try and get an evenish layer, but don't worry too much, because you can go back over it later if you think it isn't quite working in the way that you had hoped. It's just about getting a little base colour down. Now don't press too hard at this point either. If you burnish your colour right down into the paper, then you won't be able to add layers of other colours on top. Now this paper is a little bit thinner than a regular colouring book because it's in a planner. Of course you may be doing this in the colouring book, because this is from Secret Garden by Johanna Basford. So you can have a look. Of course it is a double page picture, and I can't think, I think it's I can't think what's on the other side. Oh, the other side we have a shed and all sorts of things going on, don't we? And a sort of trellis with a plant and more pots. Oh, and there's a tree with trying to think. There's a pretty tree. Oh, grapes. There's grapes, isn't there? And blackberries. It's a really pretty page, actually. I love doing all the grapes and the blackberries and things. Yeah, if you've watched many of my videos, you'll know I love doing blackberries, and grapes are quite similar. So it's not a very exciting process for you to watch me colouring this. Sorry, I just hit my elbow on the tripod. Luckily I don't feel pain too badly, so it didn't really hurt. It might have knocked the picture a little bit. I'm getting used to this, and my new camera, you see, I've got a slightly different tripod setup. Well, I had this with my old camera too, but it just didn't quite work. I found out that my camera the old camera wasn't designed to work upside down, and so it used to the lens moved around strangely. The manufacturer said that is something that is supposed to happen. It's not broken in the camera, it's just not designed for being hung upside down. And so the things that hold the lens in place don't really work when it's upside down. Fortunately, this new camera is quite happy being upside down, and so that's great. So it's working well. I'm very pleased with it. It was obviously quite pricey. but it seems to do the job, which is great. And the fact that my husband had been researching cameras for a while, he just likes this sort of technology and stuff, and found it and recommended it to me, meant that I didn't even have to do very much research. I just had to say to him, well, are you sure it'll do X and Y and Z that I need it to do? And he's like, yeah. And so that was that, and a bit of fiddling, and I've managed to find a setting that I think works well. So I have done all the basic colouring. You can see it's just a basic layer, nothing fancy whatsoever. And I'm going to swap to the raw umber, and I think I'll zoom in. I'm just thinking I want to make it easier for you to see what I'm doing. Oh, I have to have a bit of patience with him. He takes a while to zoom. So we'll do this smaller one first. Now, looking at a branch, what I've done is I have spent time observing what branches look like outside my window. And I observed that they're quite dark underneath because of all the shadows formed by their shape. But there's a little line on the top normally, and then there tends to be a section which is shiny. So what I do is I put a little line at the top, a wider one at the bottom, and leave a bit of shine here on the side. And I hope that that helps the branch look more real. I mean, we can't make them look perfectly real, obviously. I don't do photorealistic colouring, but we can have a go. Now, when we've got a knot like this, we have a decision to make. Do I make it dark in the centre, which I'm going to, so it looks like there's a little dent there, and this bit, if I go around the edge a little bit, it might look like it's sticking out a little bit from the branch. We can just give it a bit of interest into the branch, and we can emphasise that more when we're going along with the darker pencil later. And here we've got a circle as well, and we can think the same. Do I want that to look like it's sticking out or a dent in the branch? And I'm thinking again a dent in, and if it's going to go in, you shade it because it looks like it's then dark in there, which if you have a little hole or dent in something, it's darker. If you want it to look like it is sticking out, then you would colour around the edge as if there was some shadow around the edge of it, like we did with this outside piece here, this ring. And it's just a matter of, and when I sort of just observe things a lot more now. Since I started colouring, you may be the same. When I'm out and about, I'm looking. I don't just think, oh, that's a nice leaf. I'm like, oh, how's the light falling on that leaf? How is it shiny? How is it looking and reflecting the light? That sort of thing. It really helps you. So with these branches, I'm just doing a bit of this darker colour on each edge of the branches. Because they're quite small, it's harder to think, oh, I'll do a thicker bit here and a thinner bit here. There isn't really the space for that. So it's just a matter of doing a little bit on each side. And you can see already it's taking shape. It looks a little more interesting than that. So with this one, I'll go through with you again. So we're doing a darker bit along the bottom here. So putting quite a few layers actually of this pencil just to get it going. Not too many though, because we've got another colour to add. And taking it up a little bit. So remembering we're having a little bit at the top and a little bit of gap where we just see the lighter colour showing through. And now again here we've got another knot in the wood, and I'm going to do it the same way. So it's going to be darker in the middle there, and then a little bit of this colour all the way around the edge, quite close to, or even on top of that black line if you can get there, to make that look like it stands out. And we'll be adding a bit more with our darker pencil in a minute. Now here we've got a circle. Think about, do we want that as a hole, which I'm going to do like that. Oops, this is very thin, so really all we can do is just add our colour on top. A strange noise. I don't know my computer, or if someone else's computer is on making a noise. Not sure. Might be mine. I don't know if you can hear it. Oh, talking of hearing, I hope my old camera used to be able to hear the motor running all the time, and this one is silent, so I'm hoping it's improved the sound quality a little bit. I do move closer and further away from the microphone at times, which I realise could have an impact on how well you can hear me, but I hope it's loud enough, because I did have a fiddle with that when I first got it to make sure that, because I think when I first recorded with it, oh look, we haven't done that bit, maybe you noticed, I don't know, when I did it. So I just grab the yellow ochre and just do this little bit. Yeah, I fiddled with it. I don't know what I'd done, something strange. But anyway, it seems to be okay. So it seems okay when I listen back. I don't listen to my videos that often. But I try. I just realised I haven't had a phone call yet this morning. I usually have one each morning. I'm just going to have a sharpen. Now do keep your points sharp when you're doing smaller details. Now I used to get a bit worried about that. I don't want to sharpen my pencil too often, I would think to myself, because I'm going to use up the pencil. Now Castle Arts is a budget brand. They're good value for money, I would say, but they're not mega expensive, which if you're on a tight budget can be handy. Obviously they're still not dirt cheap. I realise that, you know, we all have priorities with our spending. We can't all afford to buy loads and loads of pencils. But I think if you can't get good results with your pencil because you're not sharpening it, you get a bit disillusioned with colouring altogether. You might end up not using them at all. So do sharpen them, use them, enjoy them. And what I also think is, if I use up a particular colour, I've got a favourite colour, you tend to use it more, sharpen it more, etc. Once it's used up, you then have force to use something else instead. Like for example, in my Polychromos 120 set, there are lots and lots of colours, obviously. Sorry, you didn't see me do the top. Lots and lots of different colours, but some of them I use more than others. But as they run short, I tend to grab the one next to it instead, because I always think, oh, if I use the one next to it, it's really close. And so then I'm just using a slightly different colour, one that I might not have picked, and it sort of gives you a new colour to try out and encourages you to work through the tin. Okay, so what I'm doing with this darker one, sorry, I'm just talking, not showing you, this is the burnt umber. And I'm going to go around the edge again, like I did with the slightly lighter shade. At the top here, we can't really do a lot because it's thin. So a lot of the time we're actually filling in the whole of the branch. My lead's really wobbly in this one. It's sometimes when you sharpen a pencil, any brand, the lead can be a bit wibbly wobbly. And this one is doing that today. Feels like it might break if I press too hard. I'm going to keep going with it and see what happens. So we've done that top bit. It's when we get to these bits that gets a little more technical or different. It's not really hard. So I'm going to make sure I do these centres quite hard. Can you see? Like that. And here and here. Let's get those done. Right, now I'm going to go along this edge here. Along the edge of the branch here too, and down the side. It's quite straightforward, but it just starts to add shape to our branches. And yes, you could just use one colour, but I find that using several just helps to make it look more interesting, not more realistic really, it's not realistic, is it? But, you know, better, I just say better really. But you could use one shade and just press harder at the edges and lighter as you go towards the middle, and if you've only got one shade of brown. But we're lucky enough to have 4 here. Now, Now I've done that, it looks a bit weird, so I'm going to get my lighter raw umber and just work on this large branch areas and just bring in the colour a bit. So go over the top of that really dark bit and just bring it towards the middle a bit, so it doesn't look like it's just a stripe. And hopefully once we're done, I don't think we did that edge, I think we'll be okay there. Once we're done, it will look like we've got some shape rather than just a stripe. There we go. I think maybe a little bit more up here. You can even go over this bit that's really pale if you want to, just in a pale layer to darken it a bit, or you can grab back your lightest colour, or the yellow ochre in this case. We're just going to do this bit as well. So I need this one, this raw umber again. Sorry, that was a bit blurred, wasn't it? And again, just going around the edges. Now when I did this picture the first time, I think, trying to remember exactly what I did. There, that's better. And now I'm going in with the burnt umber to finish it off with a layer around the outside. It might be enough. Let's see. Yeah, so when I did this the first time, I didn't do any sky. I don't think I left it white in the background. The second time I did a bit of blue, and what I did was I did a darker blue colour around the edge of the page, so all the top, the sides and things, and then towards this bit here, this centre bit here where we've got all this gap, I actually faded it out and didn't have a lot of blue in that bit, and then the emphasis was actually on the butterfly, which was quite nice. On this particular page, I'm not sure what I'm going to do because these leaves are all so small. There's a lot of work to be done getting in between each one of them with a blue or whatever it might be. So I'm not sure. I have seen some people colour a sort of haze of green behind the tree, which is an idea. Now this tree is an apple tree. They have apples, and I'm thinking about what colour to do those apples. We could do, I'm thinking red is a good idea because we've got a lot of green. With these green, we've got lots of greens in this picture, so red will give us a different touch. But we have two reds in this botanical set. I'll show you. This one here is very pinky in colour, and this is the cadmium red, so I'm not going to use that one. This one is the red ochre, and it's more orangey, which is great, but it's still very, very vibrant. So what I'm going to do is use my orange as well and do half orange, half red, mix them together, and then I might mute them with a sort of like terracotta or yellow ochre, something like that, if I think it's looking a bit too vibrant. So we'll see what's going to work. So it's quite hard, I find, on this page to pick out all the apples correctly. I'm going to have a go, and I may find that when I do the leaves that I've missed some, but you know, that's okay. So I'm going to make them look the same. So I'm going to do orange on this side, and then red. Whoop, I nearly dropped my pencil. Red on this side. So this is, sorry, this is the cadmium orange, and this is the upside down red ochre. So red on this side. Now it's much quicker to do all the red and then all the orange, or vice versa, rather than doing each one a bit of red and then a bit of orange. So I'm going to go through all the apples doing the red bit first, and then I'm going to put the orange on after. As I say, it's much quicker. There's an apple. So make sure you're still in shot. I'm going to zoom out because there's a lot of apples to find on this tree. Yeah, there's some lower down as well. Yeah, that's us. So I'm doing all the red. It's quite small now for you to see, but I hope you can. You got enough info. So basically, on the far right is going to be our darkest. So I'm layering that up. I'm going to do less layers towards the middle, and then I will blend in the orange in a minute. So it's a much quicker method than picking up a red, then an orange, and a red, then an orange. And so it's a tip for you. And you can use this for if you're doing leaves or anything in several colours. Just do all of the one colour first, and then the other colour after. Trying to make sure I don't miss any. We've got one there, and one here. So I hope this is okay for you, showing you this. I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you're all well and happy as well. In the UK we're moving into autumn. So this is a rather nice autumnal picture to do. I expect you are in the US as well. I think that's where most of you are, not all of you. I'm enjoying having cooler weather. We've got sunshine today though. Got quite hot. I popped a Mac on and some boots because it's been raining all night and stormy. And remembering this is recorded early, so this might not reflect the actual weather on the day you watch this. I'm just seeing if I've done all the apples now, sitting up and having a good look. I think I have, so I'm going to grab my orange and do the other side of them. Anyway, and I walked into town, and I had a nice stroll. I actually walked along the pavement rather than the canal path this morning because I wanted to see if the petrol station had any petrol, which it didn't. We won't go into the details of that, but anyone who lives in the UK will know. And so I did that, and then I did my shopping. I walked back along the canal path, and it was so sunny. It was getting really warm, but the breeze was cool. I had to take my Mac off and carry it home. So but I walked back along the canal path, which is a lovely walk back from town. And didn't see much wildlife today. The bit of the canal path that goes from my house to town is always really very busy all day long, and lots of people walking dogs and things, and unfortunately the dogs tend to scare the wildlife a little bit. I saw a few more hens, they weren't too scared. But when I went for a walk yesterday and I went the other way along the canal, I saw a kingfisher and a heron and loads of mandarin ducks and all sorts of lovely insignets and things. So, you know, it's just different. Now these are a bit too vibrant for my liking. You might feel for you they're fine, so you don't have to do this next bit if you don't want to, but I'm going to show you anyway because I did mention trying it. So I'm going to get my Terracotta Light. I haven't used the Terracotta Light on the tree before, so here it is, and I'm going to use it on top of each of the apples, and I think it'll help to blend together those colours, but just darkens them a little bit, so there's a little bit less vibrancy in them, which for me looks slightly more realistically coloured. They're still quite orange. I think they look a bit like a Braeburn apple. I don't even know if I think we grow them in the UK. We used to get a lot of our apples from France, but I think we now get a lot from the UK. I'm not sure. It might depend on the supermarket you shop in. The one I use tries to have a lot of UK produce, and it's nice to support your local farmers. We do have a farmers market as well we go to. Don't tend to buy apples from them though. They usually have the ones you have to cook, and my children like to be able to just chop one up and eat it when they want it with their breakfast. And we do eat, I have to say, a lot of bananas. We certainly don't grow those in this country. Okay, there are apples. Now we need to think about the leaves. Now I don't want to do the leaves just one colour. I don't really know what colour leaves are on apple trees. So I'm just going to have a look. Now the greens we have, you can see them here. So we have a very pale green and a slightly darker one. I think these two work nicely together. I think these two work quite well together, and these are more bluey greens. I don't think they're right for the leaves. So we've got this sort of olivey greens or these paler greens. I think these two I'm going to go for. Could do more than two colours, but they are quite small. So what I'm going to do is, this one I've used quite a lot. Favourite of mine. I'm going to give it a sharp one. I think I've got another one of these in one of my other Castle Art sets anyway. And I think for my leaves I'm going to do something which you've seen me do lots of times before, which is, I'm just going to push the book up a tad. I think you can see all. Is to do a darker colour in the bottom corner, bottom of the leaf I mean, and then we'll do a lighter colour on the top of the leaf. Now this isn't very realistic, leaves don't look like this, but I think it's more fun to colour this way. I think they look nicer too, but you know, that's always a matter of opinion as to what looks nice when things are being coloured. But I just think it makes it more fun. And also if someone looks at your picture, I think if you've got a few different colours and everything, it looks more like you've put more effort in, more skill. And I don't, to be honest, I don't think it really is, but you know, I think it just looks more appealing. Because I do find that if people don't do colouring themselves or any sort of art, they don't really have any idea of how difficult it can be and how much effort goes into the pictures. And sometimes if you're going to show it to somebody else, it's quite nice to make it look like you've put in a lot of work. I think I don't always show art to everybody. Some people don't really, it's not their thing, you know, that's fine. We're all different, you know, and they might play the, I don't know, very loud musical instrument. I might not want to hear that. You know, I don't think everyone has to enjoy what you're doing, but it is nice when people do take an interest, of course it is. My husband is my biggest fan. He's very naughty, he doesn't watch my videos, but he keeps an eye on them. He goes, oh, your video's popular today, oh, your video isn't so popular today. Thanks, love. But he, as I say, he doesn't watch them, he doesn't have time. It's not his sort of art. He doesn't use coloured pencils anymore. He does pen, like a sort of fine liner ink, or he does like his fountain pens too, but he can't use those in the sitting room because he uses permanent ink, because, well, he does with all his pens because he watercolours on top, and obviously if you use a water-soluble ink you're in trouble. But his fountain pens, he's very messy. He's already spoilt one of my shopping bags that was on the back of a chair. Oh, apple. When he drops some, which way around is it? Dark red. He dropped some ink on my bag and it's got a splodge, a blue splodge on it now. He's also got some on my sitting room carpet, which I wasn't too pleased about. And I know I use pens at times, but I sit at a desk and try and keep them all contained. So he's quite messy at times. He's not normally a messy person. He's got some on the sofa and some on the carpet though. But anyway, I don't know. I'm going to try and wash it out, but it's really difficult with carpet because you don't want to. If you wet it, it might just spread. It might be permanent ink, it just might not come out. I think he said he was trying to scratch it out a little bit, you know, like if it's dried, because sometimes, but it's tricky. But I think if I wet it, it might spread and be worse. Now I know you're supposed to blot it and make sure you sort of move it towards the centre of the mark rather than outwards, but we'll see. I'm just building up the confidence to do it. I don't know what this is. There's a sort of square there. And I'm never sure whether it's a leaf that's curled. I think it is. I'll do that as a leaf. It's interesting when you've, like, this is the third time I've coloured this picture, and the same things sometimes sort of catch me out each time. It's fun. I've actually got, I decided to order the weekly planner for next year. I think it's out really soon. It might have already come out by now. I'm trying to think, what date is this? The 4th of October. Yeah, I think it comes out in September. And we're on the, what day are we? Well, it's 27th of September today. So I'm a week ahead of myself. And so I think it might be coming out tomorrow. I got my husband to order it because he accidentally signed up to Amazon Prime. So he ordered it for me, I think. I need to check, actually. He's on a phone at the moment. He's on a work call. He's working from home this week because there's no petrol anywhere. So it's just a silliness, I think, the whole petrol thing. I've missed a bit of branch here. I'm just going to go over it in a couple of the browns. I think, unfortunately, I think it was just one of the newspapers reported that a handful of garages had run out of petrol, and everyone just thought we'd better fill up then. And of course, I'm sure it happens everywhere. I mean, you can understand if someone was really low, or they work in a job where they have to drive to work or else they don't get paid. I can quite understand it. And the problem is, the more and more people that did it, the less and less there was available, because basically there's no shortage. It's just everyone's got a full tank when normally they don't. So he decided to work from home, and then he didn't have to fill up, as our local one is empty. Luckily we've got a hybrid car, so it's partly electric. So, but it's not a plug-in electric. It sort of charges from the back petrol engine or something. So it is more fuel efficient than some cars, which is good. But I think I was talking to some people in town today in shops, and you know, one guy said he's got a van because he owns 3 shops, and he has to deliver. You know, when he gets a delivery, he orders into one. He has to then split the stock between the shops, so he needs a big van. He said it guzzles petrol or diesel, I can't remember which, and so he needs to make sure he's got plenty all the time. So it's a bit of a worry for him, and I can quite understand. But I understand why people do it, that they worry, they panic. Like the other week, there was no loo roll on the shelf again, and it's, oh dear, because one of the newspapers has said we're short of drivers, lorry drivers for delivering to supermarkets, and we are, but supermarkets are managing. I think we found there's certain stocks running low on certain things, and I think they're being really sensible and keeping the essentials in that they know people need, and then reducing some of the luxury items that we can go without, or we can. So this is like leaf green light. I just finished the tips of all the leaves. So, you know, the items that maybe there are several brands of that product and they've only got one in, something like that. And well, at least my supermarket says this page is really curling. I don't think there's anything you can do really to stop the pages curling, and they're worse if you press harder or if you use wet. So if I use a fixative on a page, it really curls, or an acrylic paint, you know, a paint pen. I don't paint, but if I use a paint pen, it makes the page really curly. You can of course flatten it after, put a heavy book or something on it. You need to be careful, of course. Make sure your page is dry before you put something on it, before you close your book. What I tend to do is, if I've used glitter pens or gel pens, Posca pens or fixative, I will leave my book open overnight. So whether I've used it last thing in the night or first thing in the morning, I just leave my book open and try and make sure everything's fully dry. So if I want to do another picture from that book, and I have to do the facing page because I don't want to turn the page over. I have had a problem where I shut the book too early and the pen transferred to the other side. Now this was a glitter or a gel pen, I can't remember which. It wasn't too bad because I could scrape it off because it had dried in quite a lump. So I could scrape it off my nail and sort of disguise it, but you don't want to have to do that. So you can see hopefully that there's no method to this. I'm just colouring over the whole of the green. I can also hear banging upstairs when my husband's on the phone. I don't know whether he bangs his feet on the floor or something, or whether it's my next door neighbour. It's quite strange. I'll have to ask him. We'll have lunch together, I expect. One rather nice thing about him working from home is we can have lunch together. The children are at college and we get time together, which was quite rare, really. Time for just us. So that, I mean, we absolutely love being with our children and we're savouring every moment because they're getting older and they both want to do a degree. I have been trying to convince them, talking to them about apprenticeship degrees where they can get their sponsorship for their study, so they can go and work for a company and study at the same time and use their work as to base their assignments on and things like that, and then they can get paid, their courses paid. And I thought they would be really difficult to do in the sense of having to get really high A-level scores, but actually they weren't too bad. I think they might be based more on interview, your attitude, that sort of thing. So we'll see. I just think it might be a cheaper option than getting a loan. I had some scary news in this morning saying the government are going to try and, because repaying student loans in the UK is means tested, which means that you only have to start repaying them when you're earning over a certain amount of money, which is quite nice really, because it means you don't have to worry about repaying it when you first get a job and you're maybe not paid, or maybe you have to go into temporary work for a while before you find the right job and that sort of thing. But now they're saying they're going to change that so that the threshold is lower. Now I can understand that, because any loan that isn't repaid after 30 years, the taxpayer has to repay. And I can see why that might feel unfair to people, that if they haven't got children that went to university or they didn't themselves, why should they be paying for everybody else? You know, I can see that point of view. I always try and look at things from both points of view, but on the other hand, we need to think about whether that's going to make it difficult for our children, you know. And they won't borrow tons of money, but unfortunately that makes no difference to how much you repay, because it's based on your earnings, the amount you repay. It's not based on how much you borrow. So they won't borrow loads because we're in a very fortunate position where we're earning, well, my husband is earning well, so they won't be allowed to borrow lots. It means they won't have lots to pay back. It means we'll have to pay it instead. Right, there is our tree. Now it's taken quite a long time, but I'm rather pleased with how it's come out in the end. What I am going to do is, I think I'm going to leave there, but I'm going to go do another video with a bit more. I thought I might do this, as I said before, as a series of videos, so you can follow me doing different parts of the page. So that's just the apple tree really. Obviously if you're doing the whole book, the page in the book, there's a lot more to the apple tree over this side that you might want to fill in as well. But I quite like that combo of colours. I think it looks quite pretty. I hope you do too. Thank you for watching, and tune in. It will be tomorrow, will be the next part of this one. So happy colouring.